those are 100 million. And then they will come and say, your income tax bill is this. At the moment, they will not be able to do that. So I believe that these two instruments are very powerful in terms of curtailing the illicit financing. Finally, on illicit financing, there are measures being put in place to ensure that passengers, as we cross into the airports, there will be better surveillance on what we are carrying in our suitcases. So the fight against the illicit financing is on, in the banking system, in the taxing system, and also physically. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Mavumba, and then Honorable Nyirenda. Then we'll go to the next one. I'm not in your hands, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, for me, I take you to the Minister of Agriculture and the resources that you provide for FISIP as well as the crop marketing. Obviously, it consumes maybe 80% of the Minister of Agriculture budget, which entails that obviously the Minister of Agriculture cannot undertake other strategic areas of that particular ministry. Minister, why is it that, and I think last time I asked this question under the floor of the House, and Madam Speaker directed the Minister of Agriculture to have a caucus with members of Parliament. Why can't we come up with an honest conversation around FISIP and around the new method of financing, where, you know, the credit window that the Minister always speaks to? Because the question is that, do we want to continue with FISIP or do we want to continue with a credit window? Because, Minister, if you look at FISIP, yes, it has supported the agricultural sector in this country in terms of our food security. But when you look at the production level, vis-a-vis the amount of investment that your ministry is making, Minister, the production maybe per hectare compared to what a commercial farmer is getting, it is totally different. Our farmers are maybe getting per hectare, maybe they're getting 1 ton. A commercial farmer will get maybe 7 tons. Even when we went into Nansang. So look at the value, Minister, that we are losing. And this is why, as a country minister, through your minister and through other ministries, it's important that we come up with a clear position. FISIP versus credit window, which is which, so that probably we can save significant amounts of money, not withdrawing FISIP, but finding creative way of investing in our farmer, so that even in terms of the production levels also goes up. And I'm sure, Minister, you can reduce that particular budget, and that budget can be used for other important things in the Republic of Zambia. So I would want a comment from yourself, Minister, because researches have been made on this particular budget allocation, and obvious the issue has been there is a lot of budget slack in terms of how that fund is applied. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nyirenda.
Thank you so much, Chair. Honorable Minister, the restructuring has been done, and now through fiscal consolidation, you have constrained the appetite for domestic borrowing. The question that begs for an answer is, you are very slow in dismantling domestic payment arrears. No wonder there is no money in circulation, because the contractors who supplied to the government, up to today, they have not been paid. I would want your comment on that one, whilst you tell us the best route you're going to use in ensuring that we collect the uttermost from the mineral royalties. I'd want to hear, what is your plan? You have been able to tell us, no, for us Zambians it's very easy to catch us. What about for the big mines? What plan do you have on how to collect the mineral royalties? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the FISIP versus credit window, the idea is to progressively increase the credit window, and this year the support to the credit guarantee, which houses the credit window, the amount has been doubled from what it was last year, correct? So that more and more farmers and anybody else can be able to access the credit. FISIP is continuing, but the strategy of government is to project the credit window progressively more, and FISIP will become less and less important over time, not abruptly, because if you do it abruptly, then of course there will be production just going to fall. You have to get people used in a gradual process. I also want to say that FISIP is progressively going through the e-voucher, which is better at identifying beneficiaries. As we speak right now, I think a lot of people who were collecting fertilizer under FISIP with better documentation using computers, those have been they've fallen off. Okay, because we're able to demonstrate that you're actually involved in a scam, so they've fallen up. Some civil servants and many other people, they've fallen up. So once again, the idea is to gradually increase the credit windows and gradually reduce on the FISIP. On the arrears, yes, the arrears are being dismantled. Of course, in doing that, last year we provided what, 7 billion? Oh, 4.7. 1.24. Yeah, 6.3 billion this year. Next year it is just under 6 billion. Please understand the manner in which these arrears came about. In the last few years before 2021, it was just huge amounts created at the same time. Go and do this road here, go and do this road here, go and do this road here, without taking into account the financial ability of the country to be able to pay for those. Now, if we choose to accelerate or to put more money into these areas, automatically it means that we must reduce on the CDF, we must reduce on some other things. So we have to balance things out. Okay, we have to balance things out, and the balancing that we are doing is one where everybody gets something. Those with arrears are getting something. Those development programs also, we build schools, we build hospitals. Otherwise, in the last 2 years, we would not have built schools, hospitals, CDF, because the amount of money involved is just so huge. So it is a slow process, yes. One hopes that we can increase the pace. On the taxes for mineral royalty, the big companies are not a culprit. Those are actually the biggest taxpayers in this country. The biggest culprits are informal, small-scale miners who are scattered all over the country. Those are the ones where it is difficult to collect taxes, and unfortunately also this is where most of our own people are. As we speak right now, the biggest taxpayers in this country are the mining companies. There is no debate about that. The biggest source of tax are the mining companies, the big ones. The small ones are the ones that are a problem. The Minister of Mines introduced the bill, which was withdrawn, but it will come back on the Mines and the Minerals Commission, where they will also be policing to provide security to go around to check who is mining where and be able to collect taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. We'll take the last 5 in this order. Honorable Mumba, Honorable Mavenga, Honorable Mwambazi as the first 3, then Honorable Kambon and the Honorable Dr. Chital will be the last. Honorable Mumba.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning once again, Honorable Minister. Before I ask my question, I just wanted to make an observation on FISIP. You have emphasized to us here about the drought, and one of the things that has happened is that our maize production went down, and therefore you have spent all these millions of dollars. But again, in your strategy for the 2023-2024 farming season, it sounds to me like business as usual. What do I mean? 2024-2025. Yeah, 2024. 2024-2025 sounds to me like business as usual, and there seems to be no clear strategy from government how prices of mini meal are going to reduce. Why am I saying so? If you look at the question my colleague asked on FISIP, credit window, one would have expected that government's investment in this farming season would have had 85% clear investment in maize production, so that if you have abundant maize, definitely you are going to deal with the issue of smuggling, you are going to deal with the issue of the cost of mini meal. This is not, doesn't look anything near a strategy coming from Ministry of Agriculture, hearing from what their presentation was. So to me, what they presented is not any different from 2022-2023 farming season. That's just my comment, because I know that the cost of living predominantly comes from the cost of food, and that is where we have a problem in the country. I wanted to draw your attention. You know, revenue collection for me is something that I'm very passionate about, because I believe the taxes we're paying as Zambians could significantly be reduced if ZRA was a little bit more innovative than just being as aggressive as they are now. You know, now with the load shedding and everything, you fail to log in and push in your new returns. They will come for you 900 kwacha the following day. How one arrived at 900 kwacha, if you're filling in new returns, one doesn't know. So these are some of the things that are making the government look anti-Zambian in terms of taxation. But you mentioned a very important point, the 15% instrument that is being charged for lack of tax clearance certificate. Now this is my substantive probably suggestion, comment or question. It will be dependent on you. Rightfully so, we are an import led, and rightfully so, the mining sector does contribute to our taxes, and it should, because it's the backbone of our economy. But, Honorable Minister, there are millions and millions of dollars, day in, day out, month in, month out, where mining companies are importing products. So, if, for example, Anthony Investment sits in the UK, I'm dealing with KCM, which has started production, or Mupane. So Mupane is looking for all this sophisticated equipment, which is not available in Zambia. So Mupane, I charge Mupane £1 million. Mupane, when paying me in Anthony Investments in London, it will pay directly from either their accounts abroad or from maybe the local bank here. But government has not benefited anything from there. No single tax that Anthony Investment has paid in Zambia for getting that opportunity to do that business. Go to ZESCO, our own ZESCO. Look at how many contracts of millions and millions of dollars between India, China, that government collects no single tax whatsoever. It is when ZESCO receives, if it's transformers, they pay. It's JN investments in India. And ZRA, just look at all Zambia Railways, even Zambia Railways. Just look at them, all these things they buy, signals, whatever, millions and millions of dollars. No single tax. When is your ministry going to move in to have a study Because I can guarantee you this 200 million which you have told us outright you cannot have can easily be raised from what I'm talking about. Especially with the policies now of the new Dawn government in the mining sector, where you have allowed the sector to quickly start to grow. If you look at even your new mine, the largest that will be in Zambia, between Chingola and Chilabombo, look at the equipment that is coming in, which is being bought by the mining company here from abroad. No single tax whatsoever, nothing, not even a 10% or 15%. When can your ministry sit down with your technocrats, very highly qualified people, to think through this and see? And I know this can be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Malenga.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable Minister. Before I also ask a question, first of all, let me make a comment on the cash for work, which the Honorable Minister touched on. Honorable Minister, there's a problem on that cash for work because of the mode of payment which you have introduced into the system, because some areas in this country were not ready for technology. People have to be paid in the phones. They are not, the government haven't put in the towers, there's no network. People have worked and they cannot be paid. So I wonder whether, Honorable Minister, you can look into this issue of the mode of payment for this cash for work. People have done the work and they are still doing the work, but they cannot be paid because they have no money even to buy the funds. My actual question is on the Honorable Minister, the money which is released late, like CDF, just to fulfill the obligation by the Minister of Finance, but come December, that money is swept back to Bank of Zambia. In 2022, I think the Honorable Minister gave a statement that the money will remain in the local government's coffers, but last year the money was swept into Bank of Zambia. Is it possible that probably you can stick to your old policy that the money be kept by the local authority? Because once it's back into the constituency, like Mwabez, we lost 80 million last year. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Let's allow the Honorable Minister to respond to those two. Honorable members will come on the last slot. Honorable Minister.
On the maize question by Honorable Mumba, I believe we have, within the limited resources that are available, again, bearing in mind that priority number one is to keep people alive. Hence, the plan, given the resource envelope, was to provide social cash transfer, this drought cash transfer, and cash for work, and which has taken up a lot of the resources. But within that, I believe that the budget for the Ministry of Agriculture for FISIP is bigger than last year, isn't it? Yeah, it's bigger than last year. Also, the budget for FRA to buy maize, because government has made the policy directive that we should increase the size of the maize reserves from 500,000 metric tons to 1 million tons, so that we have a cushion, a bigger cushion all the time. That budget is also increased. Then there is the issue of the credit window. As I said, the amount that has been put aside for you and I and anybody else to go to a bank, a participating bank, and borrow money, out of which a portion is guaranteed by government. That is, I think these three are the most important elements that have been put in place to help to increase production next year. On the taxes, I think there are a number of things here, Honorable. If you are importing a piece of equipment, say from India, from Japan, you are basically saying government is not collecting any taxes out of that. But remember the policy of government for any equipment meant for production in the country, whether it is in agriculture, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is whatever it is, there is no tax. You don't pay duty on the imported machinery. But the Zambian government also cannot put a tax on the one who is exporting into Zambia, because you only tax those who are in your economic jurisdiction. So it is a policy, deliberate policy, to say any equipment imported in the country will not be taxed, whether it's in manufacturing, agriculture, and so forth. However, if there is a contractor that comes from outside the country to come and do work here, that one is taxable, isn't it? Through withholding tax and so forth. So for those that come here to do work, they actually get taxed. Finally, on your question, or perhaps one more point, there is an issue of transfer pricing. A company imports machinery. That machine is $100 where it comes from, but the company importing here changes from 100 to 120. Now we have some cooperating partners who have come in to help ZRA to deal with this. It's a very sophisticated thing. It's not just in Zambia, but even advanced countries like Canada, they face the same problem. Australia, they face the same problem. So the answer is really to enhance the level of competence of our tax authorities so that they are able to deal with these issues. What other thing? Yeah, of course. Sorry? Cash for work, Honorable Mabenga. Maybe this is something that we need to categorize, because in places where there is mobile money, the most efficient way of paying people is mobile money. It reduces in fraud, because as you can imagine, when people carry cash, they get tempted and they start. But if there is no network, then perhaps we should make exceptions to the rules. We'll pick this up if it is not happening, so that we segment this constituency. They have this problem, or they're in this situation, pay them like this. These ones here, they're in this situation, pay them different, so that we don't have one solution fits all. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was his comments, but he was, I don't know, unless if you touched on it, his question was on the issue of CDF, whether we were mopping funds late towards December, yes? Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you. I hope we got the question clearly. I think the question, if I recall, with regard to, can we think of not mopping up the monies that remain at the end of the year for CDF when it is funded, as opposed to what happened for 2023 into 2024? I think the mopping up that was done was resolving a different issue, but the money was not taken away from CDF. I think you might locked, and as soon as the requests were coming from all constituencies with regards to them being ready to use those monies, all the monies were released. In fact, as it is right now, maybe the Accountant General could confirm, about 3.2 billion that was mopped up last year has fully been given to the constituencies as it is, and I think Accountant General can confirm that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's go to the last one. Honorable Mambazi, Honorable Gamboni, and Honorable Dr. Chitalo.
Thank you, Chairman. for allowing me to ask the Minister a question. And Minister, I've been following your submission attentively, and also to the fact that you've indicated that ministries have done a reduction of 37% to their budgets, just I think to cushion. And we do understand your issue you are grappling with of fiscal space. I just wanted to understand, if you look at your head 21, there are projects which you funded which are non-performing. They've been funded before by previous governments and nothing has come out of it. One of it is Kasaba Bay. You provided 90.7 million to Kasaba Bay. I know you want to open the northern circuit, but previous governments funded 120 million and nothing has come out of it. And I would like to find out, I think, what's the motivation. Secondly, the issue of there's a funding which we also looked at, the 25 million to Liwa National Park, which we also looked at. And if you look at the agreement with Africa National Parks, which we looked at under the Ministry of Tourism, there were some agreements on how they were supposed to do improvements to Liwa National Park. So we're wondering why we should provide the 25 million again for infrastructure development in Liwa National Park, which also has got issues in terms of revenue sharing with the African National Parks, Liwa, as well as Bangweulu National Parks. Apart from that, also your credit window, you've increased it to 821 million, which performed badly, I think, last season. So I was just wondering, why do we continue to push money to sectors or to projects which have not performed well, as it were, instead of focusing on or saving funds to other very, very needy areas? That is under 21, and also providing for the same things under public service management, public service microfinancing company. There's 150 million, looking at the same farmer-related issues to fund farmers and projects under credit window, the same thing. And why can't we just consolidate and put some of these funds? I think lastly also the seed fund of 100 million we've provided for Zambia Railways, I think for improvement. All these have not come up with a proper mechanism to supervise these state-owned enterprises, which even through the Eurobond, much of the money was given and nothing came out of it. We're still pushing in money to those companies. What is the motivation? Because I think it's merely, if there's no mechanism on to manage them, especially on on-lent loans, why should you put money in those sectors? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Honorable Company.
Mine short one, Honorable Minister. Yeah, may I thank you again that you increased FRA. Food reserve, because we need to reserve really more food. But we still, I'm not still satisfied how much effort we are putting on irrigation. South Africa produces all the metric tons we want in Zambia through irrigation. And irrigation, we have talked about it. But when you look at all our plans, don't really hinge on improving irrigation. Because even now, taking these rains that we have, it's really a gamble. We have put 80% of the money from Ministry of Agriculture to go to FISIP, and most of these farmers in FISIP, they are dependent on natural rains. Let's assume again we have a disaster of the rains, then we'll be the same. I think for me, like the member of Parliament here said, we really need to see how we can make irrigation a reality through budgeting as well. And then also through the Ministry of Agriculture, research. As the climate is changing, and I don't know, because I've attended so many conferences on climate change. IPU, the big theme, climate change, but we don't seem to prepare adequately for the climate change. Now, on the research agriculture, I think we need to change and put more money so that all the activities we are doing on agriculture can fit into how fast the climate is changing. The same thing with the Ministry of Energy. I would believe, you know, the solar things and moving away from hydropower should really be given a very high priority so that we solve. And finally, as you look at, as you give in the money, I think you must also be concerned on how it is easy to steal, how porous the source envelope is, but also how it is used. Let me look at the transport only. We have government vehicles, and the system that is there is so easy for anybody, even an officer or a driver, sometimes to steal. The way we even manage our fuel, buying of the fuel, we need a system. The servicing of government vehicles, we need the system. I have seen this where government vehicles can be taken to a garage, maybe the expense is 5,000 kwacha, somebody tells inflate it, put it at 18, and the government loses money like that. I think we could come up with a system. I have seen in other countries where government vehicles are serviced by the government. They have employed mechanics, they have everything, well-equipped garages with all the parts, and they do a fantastic job, well-trained mechanics. And that way maybe we can sell, because really, in terms of the transport system here, servicing of the vehicles, buying of fuel, is quite loose, and it shouldn't be like that. So I thought at some point you should really come up with a system. I think, and the other area I've talked about is irrigation and the research on agriculture, and not on agriculture research, but also on energy, so that we can really get these things done well. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, you can respond to those. Honourable members, we need to be brief as we wind down.
Thank you. Cassava Bay, is anyone... I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Cassava Bay is, yes, we said we're going to provide infrastructure. I don't know how many of you have been to Liua. It is tough, deep sands. So, yes, there's a game, but as we speak right now, there's hardly any lodge hotel there, because tourists, they just find it hard to get there. So that's infrastructure. So that, and this is the only economic asset in Karabo district, which if you look at places like Moshi in Tanzania, Arusha, small towns but thriving a lot because of tourism. But if tourists can get there because of the infrastructure, then of course it becomes a problem. I hear your point about the consolidation of credit funds, something that we need to think about. On the irrigation, I think we increase irrigation this coming year. The thing is, again, I come back to the disaster that we have. Most of the money is gone to make sure that people eat. Unfortunately, it also means that it eats into money that you could use for investment into things like irrigation. That said, we have increased the amount of money that goes into irrigation. I think we also need to do something about promoting tourism. In the rain that fell last year was fairly adequate for those areas. So if only we can promote agriculture there to increase, because in any year some parts of the country are likely to have less rain compared to the others. But if all the areas are prosperous in terms of farming, then we can cushion ourselves. As it is, looks like what was harvested last year in the northern parts is slightly higher than what was estimated, and that is saving us, but we need to do more. I take Honorable Kamboni's various comments. Just perhaps to comment that I think as Zambians also we need to change in the sense that there is not going to be a policeman always to check behind and say is there embezzlement here and so forth? We must also cultivate values where we ourselves are the ones that restrain ourselves without waiting for a policeman or somebody to come and just to remind you that in the 70s, government had what they used to call the Mechanical Services Branch. I don't know if you remember it, if you were there. I think you're old enough to be. MSB. At one time, the leader was General Mianda. Unfortunately, there was so much indiscipline. It was really the source of spares for anyone who had their car broken down. So that's how it was closed. Yes, it works in other countries, and it works because they restrain themselves. The place where you were in Botswana, it's inbuilt in them that you don't steal. So I think as leaders, we have to work a lot to change our mindset so that we do things properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, the last of the last now was Honorable Dr. Chitalo. But you know, Honorable Minister also here, there are members on a lighter note, like threatened you to say, I have this question if you don't give me time to ask, then be ready to face the consequences. And if he says, no, this is a life of maternity, I don't want any member to die for not having asked the question. So, Dr. Chitalo will ask, and I'll give you Honorable Stwala 30 seconds to ask his last. I don't want to lose him, Honorable Minister. So, Honorable Chitalo, can you ask? Then we'll give it to him. And Honorable Simush, sorry, my apologies for that. Okay, let's take those last two, then we'll close. Honorable Chitalo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, my question is focusing on the revenue side of things and on the health sector. Oftentimes we talk about expenditure as we talk about the health sector. But the National Health Insurance Management Act number 2 of 2018 established NIMA as a robust, sustainable and innovative way to raise resources to finance Zambia's quest for universal health coverage. Honorable Minister, I see that the last 3 years we have not sufficiently invested in NIMA. The budget doesn't state even the intentions to actually improve the operations of NIMA so that you can have enhanced ability to raise revenue other than just spending on the health sector. And I'll explain just in a few minutes. If we want to provide health services for everyone, everywhere, or succinctly put universal health coverage, we need to raise resources for it. The Ministry of Finance appropriates some money to the health sector and grants are given every month, said hospitals. But with NIMA on board, hospitals are getting much more money. For instance, Chilenje, you give it in a month 200,000 kwacha from Ministry of Finance. But from NIMA alone, they get 1 million kwacha. UTH used to get an extra 3.5 million kwacha from NIMA. They've probably gone to 5 million. But NIMA is facing the risk of insolvency. Why? Because we didn't put in the initial capital for its operations, and therefore it is relying on a third-party administrator. It would be prudent to give NIMA the seed capital so that they assimilate the functions of a third-party administrator, expand coverage, and provide health services or cover these health services cheaper. Secondly, Honorable Minister, those above 65, the vulnerable and the poor are exempted. There is need for some of those social cash transfer lines to cover that. It's there in the Act, and that way it will protect NIMA from insolvency. And lastly, Honorable Minister, if we addressed some systemic issues at NIMA, including leadership and realignment to its initial vision for universal health coverage, you would see NIMA as a partner that uses the stress on your treasury. The idea was to stop competing for the resources in the one pot at finance, but we need to structure it properly so that it can its mandate. Already, as we speak today, the bloodline for operations of hospitals is actually NEMA. So we would not be happy to see that we only provided 1.5 million in this year's budget. We'll not be happy to see that they have a 5 months backlog in claims. We'll not be happy to see that they only have 6 months cover for claims, when in the past we had 18 months, cover. Honourable Minister, my appeal is, would you consider strengthening operations of NEMA with some seed capital, realigning its functions to the initial vision of universal health coverage, which is your government's vision, and just ensuring that it is looked at as a unique vehicle to raise revenue for the health sector. And you'll realize soon that the health sector will not be a sector that will be drawing money from that common pot, but will be sustaining itself through that innovative mechanism. I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Jonas Kolanda, 30 seconds.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Remind is maybe a comment which you and your staff will do, which you check on. I was happy to hear you say you've emphasized on agriculture and the flow of money to that sector. But Honorable Minister, we have a problem, not only in my constituents, but a number of constituencies, if you ask many of the MPs here, on the flow of the money for this e-voucher. Our people are queuing for days now, weeks, and the problem that these businessmen who are handling the system are giving to the people is that there is a lack of what I might term guarantee of the money for the suppliers, for them to get fertilizer from the suppliers. So with what you said, that you've given agriculture priority, I just want to advise that maybe you check back. There could be something between your ministry and the agriculture and to these suppliers for fertilizer, because it's very, very slow. The inputs are not trickling in to the people, to the farmers. As I'm talking today, I got a lot of calls. Even DACO cannot explain why the suppliers are not giving, and they're complaining that until we get a guarantee of the payments. So I thought I should mention this, especially that you emphasize, you will put priority on the issue. It may affect us.
Not receiving fertilizer because the suppliers have not received cash, or what is exactly the problem?
Honorable Scholar, can you explain a bit?
For Minister, the suppliers are reluctant to supply to the businessmen because there is no guarantee. They think they may have a problem like it has happened in the past years. That's a story around on the ground. That's something that needs to be checked on, Honorable Minister.
Okay.
It's a big problem.
Sorry, Honorable Scholar, 30 seconds are up. Honorable Minister, can you respond to those? And we go to the last component.
I think those are just comments, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Take a note to engage. We are actually already engaging on NEMA because it's clear there's a financial problem. So we have to engage stakeholders. If you'll be available, it will be interesting to hear from you on how we can reset it so that it can play the role that you have indicated. As for General Stwala, how are we doing with funding for? I thought we have already funded it.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Yeah, we have not funded the full amount so far, but we've funded close to about 40% for the e-voucher system. I believe the issue that the Honorable is raising is with regard to the challenges of the dealers, what do you call them? The suppliers of fertilizer. Agro dealers, they are called here, which perhaps some of them don't seem to have stock in those particular areas, and I think that's an item that Minister of Agriculture has indicated they are following up, because when this e-voucher model was brought up, one of the issues that was done was to ensure that there is an agro dealer. I think the minimum was 3 agro dealers in almost every constituency or something like that. So I think there would be better place to deal with why some of them do not have stock. Submit.
Mr. Chairman, very quickly, colleagues, this e-voucher, if you have a problem, send us a note, even on WhatsApp, because I'm following very closely, so that we know exactly what the problem is, whether it is a money issue or whether it is a supplier's issue. And I also want to know how many dealers each one of us have in our constituency. I really need to know how many agro dealers each one of us have in our constituency, because sometimes we are told stories, no, they're agro dealers, but then when you ask the MPs, they say no, there's nothing. So I want to know the truth and be able to follow up quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. One of our members, my sincere apologies. I know there are members who were still indicating to ask questions. We have done almost 17. And I can't take the ones from Honorable Simushi, Honorable Mkwasa, and Honorable Maveta. My apologies. Honorable members, we are running out of time. Honorable Minister, now, as we conclude, and also I'm happy that I think the issue was raised by Honorable Mutale in terms of we gave you the schedule where we are interacting with other committees, where we identified areas that which are needing reallocation to other heads of programs, as I indicated earlier on, and also the 2.4 billion. And these are coming from head number 21, the Minister of Finance and National Planning, 900 million. The Minister of Fertilizer Input Support Program, about 710 million. But you realize that also we have done where we are proposing that maybe these monies should go in terms of the programs. We had, like Honorable Kamboni was talking about under agriculture. We have seen over time, like issues of research not being given enough resources. So members are thinking, why don't we get money, say, for maybe national, I'm just giving an example, National Food Reserve Management, and pumping money there to support the research. So, and since there was a commitment that you can get back to us, remember with the time when we were discussing in camera in terms of the list we gave. So I'm proposing that we give you the same assignment, because we had not given you this document. We just gave you when you came in. That if it's possible, you can give us the feedback on these amounts, what you think is feasible in terms of moving, so that as we wind up tomorrow, then we have the feedback. You can have the afternoon to look at it and give us maybe feedback towards the end of the day. Just as in terms of comments, really for the committee, I think this is very important exercise. As I said, this is when we are doing, this is our first time to do the sector budget analysis, and we have given the committees ample time to look at what do they think about their heads that which we are given to look at. So it'd be good at least to have some feedback from you at the end of the day on what you are able to move and what you are not able to, so that as we conclude tomorrow, then we know the picture even before the report is laid before the House. So if that is okay, then we can end here, because if we start going through the figures again, it will take another maybe 1 hour for you to respond. And as we said, we have just given you this document, so to give you time maybe for the afternoon to look at the figures conclusively, and then we will get feedback from yourself. Okay, I want to believe that that's the right way to go on, our members. All of means at this time we want to thank you most sincerely. Please, we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the first year that we are doing this process, and I think we are learning a lot, and there's also a lot to be done in terms of improvement. I think for next year, these numbers that we presented, it will be good to do that a little bit earlier on, so that we can interact rather than just in the last minute. Some of these, I think, it's just explanations that were perhaps not properly provided. Like the one money for restructuring, because it hinges on the Mopani coming back to life. Remember, Glencore left $1.5 billion of debt, and the newcomers said we have to share this liability, although of course it was brought down from 1.5 to just under $600 million. So the partner said, we are partners, so if you remove that, it means the whole thing is just falls into disarray. So we didn't have time to explain some of these things, but the process is very good, and I believe that if we can keep on improving, like discussing these things early on, we'll end up with a budget process that is more credible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the comments, Honorable Minister. So we'll wait for the responses by tomorrow, and then we'll wind it up as a committee. Chapter 12 of the laws of Zambia in terms of the immunity, that which was given earlier to you, Honorable Minister, with your team. We'll also end here. Do have a good day. We'll see you in the afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Enjoy the best football moments with your hashtag BFFGoTV. Get GoTV today to enjoy all the best football live on SuperSport. GoTV, love it.
Before the Committee on Agriculture, Land and Natural Resources. Before we start our engagement, I will request that honorable members of Parliament introduce themselves. Then we'll be followed by the Secretariat. You'll be the last ones to introduce yourselves. We'll follow that order. Honorable Member for Vubwi.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, witness. Honorable Akre Obanda, Member of Parliament for Vubu in the Eastern Province and a member of this committee. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning, witness, and welcome. I'm Peter Piri, Member of Parliament from Kaika constituency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, witness. My name is Tyson Mzingiri, Member of Parliament for Gwembe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Sasco. I'm Lusale Simbao, Member of Parliament for Rwansha constituency.
Thank you so much. You introduce yourself, dear? Yes, even from there. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Sasco. My name is Evans Chilongo from the House of the Clerk. Thank you.
Okay. Wait for one more has just walked in. Honorable, you may introduce yourself.
Sorry, Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, witness. I'm Honorable Malambo Mwemba, Member of Parliament for Magoe constituency and a member of this committee.
Thank you. You can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Good morning, members of Parliament and members of the committee. My name is Martin Mbewe. I'm the program coordinator for SASCO.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. My name is Maurice Manyika, the program officer at SASCO Node Office. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Marilyn Mwansa. I'm the Finance and Administration Officer for the SASCO office. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Mtachalo, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, witness. I'm Mtachalo Yotam. I'm Member of Parliament for Chairman of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my name is Maureen Mabonga. I represent the people of Umfue constituency, which is in Muchinga province, in Nabushimanda district. Okay, so witness, before we begin, we want to confer you with the immunity that members of Parliament enjoy while in Parliament, that whatever we say on the floor of the House cannot be used against us in any court of the law or outside. So we want to extend that immunity to you so that in case there's anything that you would want to say that will be beneficial to us, you will not be liable or you'll not be taken to court for that, or it cannot be used against you outside. But would also like to caution you that the same Cap 12 can be used against you in case you mislead this committee. The information that you are supposed to provide to the committee is supposed to be factual and verifiable, as long as it is able to help us. So I would like you to be free as you make an interaction with us, and we'll give you 15 minutes to make your submission, and we urge you to stick for now to the issues of the treaty that we are gathered here for. And for other information, I've seen that in your submission you have given us a lot of information about yourselves, basically your mission and all those. I would request that maybe, if possible, if you can arrange a meeting where you call the committee, this committee, and we can interact and ask you further questions on how you are working and all the other information, so that we can have questions based on what you're doing. So this gathering is about a treaty that we would like to ratify. So I'd like you to request you to stick to the treaty so that our conversation is guided. And before we start, we have been joined by another honorable member. Honorable Katambo, you may introduce yourself.
The Honorable Chairperson, sorry for running late. I'm Michael Katambo, MP for Masait Parliamentary Constituency and a member of this committee.
Thank you so much. With that guidance, you can go ahead and make your submission. And if you have any comment before you start, you can begin with a comment, or any clarification on the information that I've just provided, you can go ahead and ask, so that we're on the same page.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. We are pleased that we've been guided in terms of how we should proceed with our submission, and that we will stick to the treaty itself in terms of why we think that the treaty should be ratified by the government of Republic of Zambia. So by way of doing that, I think we'll go straight to start discussing the benefits that this organization has to the country, and based on those benefits that we think recommendations can be made for the treaty to be ratified by the government of Zambia. So really, for the benefits that are really very crucial to our submission, actually begin from point number 4, which are the benefits of the SASCO programs to Zambia.
Sorry, so for honorable members, it's on page 10?
On page 5.
Page 5?
Page 5, yes.
Okay. Oh, the page 10 is other benefits?
And
okay.
the benefits, yes.
Okay, so honorable members, it's page 5. Okay. All right, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the history of our organization has already been described in the pages prior to the benefits. So at this point, I'm sure that members of Parliament and Chair are aware of what we are doing, what our missions are, and anything that contributed to the existence of our organization is properly provided. So in terms of the benefits, the benefits of the country from being part and parcel of this organization is really financial. And the financial part of it arises from the fact that we have our scientists in this country that get funds from the organization, funds which they would otherwise not have been able to get from anywhere else, which is making them possible then to do their work. So in that regard, we would like to mention that from the very beginning, this organization has so far engaged in 2 major research programs, which we call SASCO 1.0 and SASCO 1.0 and SASCO 2.0. Besides those 2 major projects or programs, there have been 3 other projects that we have listed in our document. So with regard to SASCO 1.0, which was the project that started in 2012 and ended in 2018, we are saying that in terms of the funds that flowed into the country from funding that was sourced by the organization, are listed on page 6. What we are listing there is really the total amount of funds that our institutions and researchers in the country obtained from being part and parcel of the organization. We are saying that the institutions included the University of Zambia, the National Remote Sensing Center, Mulungushi University, the Zambia College of Forestry, Zambia Meteorological Department, the then Zambia Wildlife Authority, now the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, and some other private institutions, the Zambia Air Services Training Institute, and the CBNRM, Community-Based Natural Resources Management. And we are saying that the total amount of money that was given to the country through these researchers was in excess of 3.9 million euros, and when this translated into kwacha, it was 38.8 million kwacha. So this money was used for a number of purposes. One was that this money was used to conduct the research itself. This money was used to train the Zambian students. This money was used to buy equipment. This money was used to build laboratories where institutions were able to conduct their research in those environments. to emphasize that these are the opportunities that were accorded to our researchers in the absence of any other sources of funding. So this funding was very substantial in terms of them undertaking their work. In terms of the training, this money was used to train students from certificate level to diploma level, all the way up to PhD. And the higher institutions of learning, Mulungushi University, UNZA, and Copperbelt University were the major beneficiaries in terms of training the students at that high level. Like I said, there are also equipment that was provided, purchased under these funds. Of particular note, and of course I think which is very significant to the situation in which we are now, the funds were used by the Zambia Meteorological Department to buy automatic weather stations, which are now very key to make predictions in terms of what sort of weather we are going to have in this country. That was a very commendable contribution that was made, and useful use of funds from the donors. And like I said, also there were lack of equipment in the institutions of higher learning, and these funds were used to buy those particular equipment, which are now still being in use, generating research work and publications, sharing knowledge with other scientists across the globe. And then there was another project called Intercrest project. This was not as much in terms of funding as the SASCO 1.0, but it was significant enough to the range of 153,000 euro, and translated to kwacha at the time, which the rate was 1 euro to 14 kwacha. The amount of money was 2.2 million kwacha. Again, this was substantial in the sense that it was also used to buy the equipment that was made available to institutions that participated in the project. It was also used to train the technicians that are in these institutions. It also used for operations. These institutions used these funds for various activities, including the funding for their operations. The other project which we can make reference to is called the hydrogen project. As you are aware, honourables, that there's a tremendous push now to move from fuels to clean energy. So the funds that were given to the country from SASCA were actually used for the project on H2 Atlas. This H2 Atlas was really the purpose of the funds. Were used to develop an atlas where we did research in this country, identifying areas where hydrogen could be produced. And hydrogen could, obviously the purpose is that this hydrogen replaces the fossil fuels that are actually being planned to be phased out over time. So in terms of funds this small project accrued to the country was 39,950 euro. Translated to kwacha, it was 860,523 kwacha at exchange rate at the time of 1 euro 21.54 kwacha. So this project was implemented by other stakeholders within the country. It involved the Copperbelt University, the University of Zambia, and the Ministry of Energy. Just to mention that all the projects that we have been implementing, really we have implemented them together with government departments that are relevant to those particular aspects of the project. The other project which has brought in money into the country is called the WIMAS project. This is a project that is really concentrating on the management of wetlands in the country. You know, there's the Barotse wetlands, the Kafue wetlands that are very significant biodiversity entities that need to be protected in this country. And this project is being implemented within the 5 SASCO countries, plus other countries also that are participating in the project, including Zimbabwe. So in essence, there are other institutions that are in the WIMAS project that are local, but also institutions that are outside the country, University of Botswana, universities in South Africa, and universities in Zimbabwe. And here, in addition to the University of Zambia, we have the National Remote Sensing Center, which is a government department looking really at Earth observation information and remote sensing. So again, here on page 9, we have provided total amount of money that the WIMAS project has brought into the country through the two institutions, the University of Zambia and the Remote Sensing Center. The current program which we are implementing, again, which has brought in quite substantial amount of money into the country, is called the SASCO 2.0. This SASCO 2.0 is a project that is being implemented effective from 2021, and it's going all the way up to 2025, 2026. And in this project, we have 9 institutions that have received funding from SASCO to implement various projects that they themselves chose, but then which were approved by a team of scientists who evaluated the project and found that these projects, in fact, were suitable for implementation in this country and that they were going to be of benefit to communities in the country. So the institutions benefiting from SASCO 2.0 are Mulungushi University, the Kasamba Honey Company, the Zambia Forest College, the University of Zambia, which is actually the main beneficiary from the projects that we are implementing. We are also funding the Zambia Agricultural Research Institute and the Copper Belt University. So the table that we have presented on page 9 and 10 really indicates the name of the projects that are being funded, the amount of money that each project is getting, and the total amount of money that has been provided. What the table is also showing is the number of students that are being capacity built in the project at master's and at PhD level. So capacity building is one of the major components of each of these projects that SASCO is funding. As you know, capacity building is important for future generation of knowledge in the country. So besides the projects that have gone through, there are also other benefits that are accruing to the country from SASCO. Number one is that, as I mentioned earlier on, because of funding of the research, SASCO to various institutions, there's a generation of knowledge which is being published in a number of scientific papers that are being read all the way throughout the world. What we are also doing is that we are aware that scientific publications might be very technical, but we are making what are called policy briefs to really distill the knowledge that has been presented in the papers to a level where we can share with policymakers in furtherance of policy formulation in this country. The other benefit is that, remember I mentioned that we are supporting the Zambia Meteorological Department with weather forecasting and things. What we are doing at the moment is that we are upgrading the systems. The systems that were bought during the first phase of SASCO, under SASCO 1.0, have been, it's a long time ago, they've been found to be inadequate, so we are now upgrading them to a newer system which can enable us to provide very latest information for weather forecasting. We are also participants in several government and non-governmental institutions programs in the country. We contribute our scientific knowledge. We share our publications. We share quite a number of things with different institutions, and by so doing, we are really contributing to the development of this country. And we also provide data which is freely available on the web, to every institution that has access to the SASCO website is able to access the data and use it in the way that they find beneficial. After they have analyzed the data, then they can make their publications or directly use the information after they have done their analysis. And also, SASCO, one of the benefits is that SASCO employs staff. I mean, we are members of staff of the SASCO institution. We are employed by them. So the country is benefiting by way of SASCO making sure that some Zambian staff are employed on the institution. Now, with all the funds that accruing to the country from SASCO, you may also be aware that each of the 5 countries, or the study countries that are member states, at the time that they were forming the institution, I think there were obligations that each country needed to be contributing to the operations of the SASCO institutions. So every country, every one of the 5 governments agreed to an obligation that every year there is need for contributions to the organization. So what we have presented here on page 11 on 6, point number 6, is really an elaboration of the kind of contributions that each country is making to SASCO. In particular, the obligations that our country has to make to the operations of SASCO. So what we have presented on that page is amount of money that is required, or Zambia agreed to contribute to SASCO up to the year 2024, 2025, up to 2024, and how much of that funds has so far contributed, and how much is owing to be contributed to the organization. So what we are showing is that the amount of money that really has come into the country through the research programs really outweighs the amount of money that the country has to contribute to SASCO. So basically, we are really benefiting as a country. We are benefiting a lot from being part and parcel of the institution, and that it will be important that, of course, that as agreed in the beginning, that we continue to meet our obligations to contribute to the operations of SASCO. So there on page 12, we really have indicated the amount of money, the total amount of money that has accrued to the country through various projects, and which is 5.6 million euro, and how much the country has contributed so far to SASCO. So really, we can see there that we really have benefited quite a lot financially in terms of the amount of money that the country has benefited. So in concluding, honorables, we are saying that the benefits that have accrued to the country by being part of SASCO are really worth the process of ratification of this treaty, in that we have a lot more to gain by ratifying the treaty. And this is that ratifying the treaty will also expose our researchers, even ourselves, to a broader world view in terms of how much we can participate in international programs. And this also opens the door for us to seek funding for research. As it is at the moment, whenever there are calls, whenever there are opportunities for us to participate in international research calls, we are finding really legal entities within the country. For now, we are operating through the Ministry of Technology and Science as our parent ministry. We are not existing as an individual institution entity on our own. But after ratification, once ratification and all the countries have ratified the treaty, we are going to be a member of the international community, and we will be regarded as an international entity, and it's going to be easy for the institution to access international funding to do various programs and research in the country. I submit, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Questions, Honorable Simbao, then Honorable Mtacha. Oh, microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Sasco, you are aware that you have immunity. You've been given immunity. So I want you to be very frank as you answer my question. To start with, before I ask, this is very impressive. Personally, I've found your report very, very good. But what do you think? Despite all this contribution, you talked of how you have bought equipment, how you have trained the people to a certain point, some of them with masters and whatever. And yet, when you predict, the equipment you said you buy helps to predict, but we still suffer such droughts like this, because having predicted, we should have not been going through such times, especially that you put in all this. What is your comment? The other one I want to find out is the payments. You've been, if you look at page 11, I think, the payments were going fine until 2020. After 2020, we haven't been paying anything. Could this be political? Could it be because of change of government, or it's a coincidence that after the new government took over, nothing has been paid, or there is someone trying to frustrate such a good program? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mtachalo.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, witness, for a well elaborate presentation. Undoubtedly, Zambia has benefited a great deal in terms of funding from SASCO, going by these figures. I think more importantly that the country is still grappling with the devastating effects of climate change. Now, I noticed that on page 11, we are still owing SASCO about 1.3 million kwacha, despite all this assistance given to the country. Are there punitive penalties which are outlined against the member states which do not meet these financial obligations? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mwemba.
Thank you very much, Chair. I concur with my friends over the report. It's a well-detailed report. Just want to find out from you, if we have failed to pay 1.3 million and we are yet to ratify the same treaty, don't you think that it will be a huge amount to pay once we ratify? Because as of it is now, we are failing to pay just 1.3 million. Or probably, how much are we going to pay if we were to ratify? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, witness, you begin with those questions first, and then we'll come back for another round of questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair. Let me also mention that I've got my two colleagues here. My colleague on my left is Mr. Manyika, is a climate change expert, and she's the finance lady on our